This is Sunrise Extra, streaming live on Wave Now.
Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Halfway through the week and halfway through the month of September. Can you believe it?
Yeah, September 17th. It's crazy. This is flying by, and we have fall now in our sights.
Yeah, fall. It starts next week officially. Astronomical fall, by the way.
Feel like it is the real question because it's still so hot out there. Might as well be summer.
Listen, around here, nothing matches the calendar. We'll probably have to wait until the middle of December to really cool down the way we're going right now. But what we're seeing right now on our SkyTrack camera, looking east from our Jeffersonville SkyTrack camera, it is beautiful. The sunrise beginning overhead, and we're just seeing some of these mid to upper level clouds streaming across our region, matching with what we're seeing on the satellite and radar to start off the day. Your temperatures right now in the 50s and the low 60s. So a cool and comfortable morning, but with all the sunshine that we have in place, easily returning to the upper 80s and low 90s for afternoon highs, adding in a few of those extra clouds for later on today. We still have the air quality alert in place. This is a little bit more of an issue later on in the afternoon and evening. That is when we tend to see our air quality dropping a bit more, and that is something we're going to continue to watch very closely. Over the next couple of days, more of those low 90s for your highs across the region, but once we get into the weekend, not only do we see some cooler temperatures coming our way, but that is when we'll also see a little bit more of that rainfall returning to our forecast. Rob.
Tawana, thanks so much. We appreciate it. We're keeping an eye right now on traffic. We do have a situation to tell you about this morning.
All right, well, we'll get back to you, Rob, in just a moment. First, let's get to this. Happening today, two of the men convicted in the Crystal Rogers case will learn how long they'll spend in prison.
Over the summer, Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson were found guilty in the 2015 disappearance and presumed death of Rogers. Wave News reporter Kirsten Foote joining us live from Nelson County. Good morning, Kirsten.
Yeah, good morning, Olivia and Shannon. This sentencing was expected to happen actually back in August. However, that was delayed after ongoing health issues with Joseph Lawson. And another recent development with this is that the Commonwealth had recently asked a judge to deny a request for a new trial for these two men. Now, just to refresh your brains, earlier this summer, Stephen Lawson, Joseph Lawson's father, Stephen, he was convicted to 17 years in prison. The Lawsons were convicted of the same charges of conspiracy to murder and tampering with physical evidence, while Brooks Houck, Rogers' boyfriend at the time she disappeared, was convicted of murder, principal or accomplice to the crime, and tampering with physical evidence. Now, back in June, a jury in Warren County recommended life in prison for Houck and 25 years for Joseph Lawson. Back then, we spoke with Ashley Miller, one of Rogers' daughters, and it gives you a sense of the emotion that's heading into today.
It's not fair. It's not fair what they did. Not at all. I might not have been as close to Mom as my brothers and sisters were, but there's been days in my life where I've just sat down and cried because I wanted my mom there, like having my babies. Like, she would have loved my kids. She was a great mom, and she did not deserve what was done to her at all.
Now, Brooks Houck has also agreed to surrender custody of the child that he shared with Rogers to his sister. According to court documents that were filed on Monday, Houck's sister, Rhonda McElvoy, was granted full custody of Houck's 12-year-old son. So again, Joseph Lawson and Brooks Houck are expected to be sentenced today here in Nelson County at 2:30 this afternoon. Of course, we'll bring you updates throughout the entire day as this develops. Reporting live, Kirsten Foote, Wave News.
Thank you, Kirsten. And the Rogers case has been going on for a decade. Her family and so many people in Bardstown have been waiting for answers.
Wave News reporter Rob Wells is here to break down the timeline of events over the past decade. Rob?
Yeah, and Olivia, there's been so many developments over the years. It's been a nightmare for Crystal's family and friends as they waited for answers. Now, a hope for justice. We're talking about when this started, July 3rd, 2015, the last day that 35-year-old Crystal Rogers, a mother of 5, was seen alive by her boyfriend, Brooks Houck. 2 days later, she's reported missing by her parents. That very same day, Rogers' car is found along the Bluegrass Parkway with her belongings still inside. Then to July 8th, Brooks Houck was brought in by the Nelson County Sheriff's Office for questioning. Nick Houck, Brooks' brother and Bardstown police officer, advised him not to speak with officers. To July 9th, Rogers is presumed dead by authorities, though her body was never found. To November 2016, Tommy Ballard, Crystal's father, is fatally shot on a deer hunt outing with his grandson. That death ruled a homicide. Family members believe that it is connected to Crystal's murder. We take you to August 2020 when the FBI takes over the formal investigation. Then January 2023, a special prosecutor appointed to the case and the investigation into Rogers' father's death. In August, 32-year-old Joseph Lawson arrested on conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence in that case. Then September 27th, 2023, the FBI formally arrested Brooks Houck. In July, a jury finding Houck guilty of murder and tampering with evidence. Meanwhile, Joseph Lawson was found guilty of conspiracy and tampering with evidence. The sentencing, as you heard earlier, at 2:30 this afternoon in Nelson County. We'll continue to provide updates all throughout the day, both on air and online. Olivia, back to you.
Thank you, Rob. LMPD has arrested a man after a woman was shot and killed near the Shawnee boat ramp. That man is set to be in court today. LMPD says Michael Bullock shot Rachel Hughes 8 times Sunday morning. An arrest report reveals Bullock and Hughes left a business on Bardstown Road together, then arrived at the boat ramp a short time later. The report goes on to say Hughes was walking ahead of Bullock when he pulled out a gun and shot her several times. LMPD says Bullock returned to the scene twice, once with another person who helped drag Hughes' body into a wooded area. Police say Bullock then walked down to the boat ramp and threw away several items. Bullock's charges include murder and tampering with physical evidence. He's due in court this morning. No word yet on that second person who police say returned to the scene with Bullock.
Metro Council's Public Safety Committee has some resolutions it wants to bring up, and they focus on safety investments for Louisville. One resolution is scheduled to be discussed today. It's encouraging state leaders to expedite the reopening of a juvenile detention facility in Louisville. The resolution says closing the Jefferson County Youth Corrections Facility in 2019 placed a heavy burden on families, law enforcement, and the juvenile justice system. In 2023, the state legislature approved funding to renovate and operate juvenile detention facilities with a focus on reopening or establishing a place in Louisville. 2 years later, we still don't have a timeline or any other information. Recent summer violence hurting a high number of kids and teens has pushed many local leaders to want more accountability and also punishment for violent crimes. The resolution formally asked Kentucky's governor and the DJJ to expedite the process. Then there's another resolution. This calls on the Kentucky General Assembly to create Kids Over Guns Common Sense gun legislation. We told you about Councilman Ken Herndon's proposed plan last week. It asks the Assembly to lift restrictions that prevent local governments from setting their own regulations on guns. It would also remove barriers preventing local governments from deciding how guns are destroyed so they don't end up in the wrong hands. Councilman Herndon argues current state laws are outdated and changes need to be made so neighborhoods can be safer.
Former Clark County Sheriff Jamie Knoll has been ordered to pay close to $920,000 in punitive damages. Our partners at the News and Tribune report it comes after Indiana's Attorney General filed a suit. Knoll is currently serving a 12-year prison sentence after he pleaded guilty to theft and tax evasion in connection to New Chapel EMS. The state is also pursuing treble damages, which can be up to 3 times the actual loss to deter others from committing the same crime. If the judge approves it, Knoll could be on the hook for an extra $1.5 million. Knoll's lawyers say the punitive damage is excessive, and Knoll has already agreed to pay more than $3 million to those who were affected. Right now, troopers in Scott County, Indiana are looking for an older convicted murderer who walked away from a group home. Police issued a silver alert for 72-year-old Roger Caldwell. He was convicted of murdering Andy Campbell, a groundskeeper at a Boy Scout camp in Clark County in 1996. Caldwell has been locked up ever since, but the Department of Corrections says he was put on parole in February. Caldwell also claimed to suffer from Parkinson's, on top of having memory loss, a hip replaced, and using a wheelchair. Scott County Sheriff Jerry Gooden says police have been using helicopters and officers on the ground to find Caldwell. It's not clear to us why he was in the group home, and our WAVE staff got conflicting answers on that. The silver alert means Caldwell himself is in danger too, so if you see him, you should call 911.
JCPS plans to make some budget cuts next school year to decrease their nearly $200 million deficit.
People may wonder how this will affect teachers and staff, and district leaders say they're committed to maintaining salaries. Wave News reporter Marissa Burke joining us now in the studio to tell us where we could see some changes next year. Marissa?
Shannon, Olivia, the district's been working with a multi-million-dollar deficit for the past few years. The position they're in now is balancing the immediate needs for the upcoming year and planning for those difficult conversations. The district plans to be selective in the hiring process and cut some non-essential items and services. Let's talk about some of the items in the district's working budget because it all adds up. The district spent $30 million on audio enhancement equipment. Updates to the athletic fields cost the district around $20 million. The weapons detection system cost about $4 million. Then there are things like playground renovations and transportation to note as well. All this is on top of the deficit they've accumulated over the years. Here's what the chief financial officer believes they can save money next year.
We will be looking at central office cuts first. We're going to be maintaining salaries, meaning we will not be doing across the board cuts to all salaries. And we'll be protecting the resources that go directly toward the classroom.
Of all the money that goes into the district, 72% of the general fund budget is spent on schools directly, like custodians, teachers, school supplies and classroom, and school-level construction projects. One of the questions that did come up is if there are any grants or private funding options to offset some of the financial burdens. And those options may be explored by a new committee put together to look at the district's revenue. Marissa Burke, Wave News.
Marissa, thank you. A computer science agency that works with schools across Kentucky is pushing to improve AI literacy in the classroom. In Frankfort, computer science firm Advanced Kentucky met with lawmakers. They provide professional development opportunities to teachers across the Commonwealth so students can learn more about computer science. Their goal is to make sure AI literacy and cybersecurity is accessible to all Kentucky students.
We want to be able to support Kentucky students. We want to be able to continue to support the teachers and to support Kentucky's future workforce. We strongly believe that computer science as a discipline is something that all students need experience in.
Advanced Kentucky is planning to launch an AI literacy program in Warren County schools next fall.
There's now an urgent community-wide call to act and help prevent suicides. The Louisville Metro Department of Public Health and Wellness released its comprehensive suicide fatality report from 2019 to 2023. The review work group looked at data related to suicides in Jefferson County. Some of the key findings reveal trends. Men are at a higher risk. They account for 80% of suicide deaths in the county. Disparities are also growing for the Hispanic community. And in this time window, the rate in the Black community increased 127%. Also, your job could play a role, and that's something mental health advocates want to further research.
So we're seeing maybe some of the places where we are, missing, where there are gaps in the treatment, and we want to learn more about it so that we can actually fill in those gaps and provide the treatment or provide the coping skills that people need.
And there is a number you can call if you need help. That's just 988.
A months-long NBC investigation on MMR vaccine rates for U.S. kindergartners shows they're dropping in Jefferson County. The report reveals just under 65% of kindergartners in the county had their 2 doses of the MMR vaccine last school year. Pediatricians say most parents are still keeping up with their children's MMR vaccine schedule, but the low vaccine numbers are concerning considering how contagious diseases like measles can be.
It is not a fever and a rash. A common misconception. There are lots of complications that can come with measles. 25% of kids who get measles will get pneumonia.
Okay, perfect. Doctors say parents with questions about vaccines can and should talk to their children's pediatrician. Now let's check in with Rob for a traffic alert this morning.
Olivia, thanks so much. You're still keeping an eye on a real snafu out there on the roadways. You see the traffic lights right behind me. We're talking about the area. This is 265 West at I-65. Reports of a 2-car crash just about 40 minutes ago, really tying things up out there. First responders cleaning up that area. You see the taillights back to back. So when you see that, certainly slow down and give yourself a lot of extra extra room between you and the vehicles in front of you and behind you. Again, let folks do their job. No reports of any injuries on this. We're going to keep an eye on it throughout the morning. But that's what we have for now. Olivia, back over to you.
All right. Thank you, Rob. Coming up, we're counting down to the start of Louder Than Life. We'll show you the setup at the Expo Center and the loud bands they'll have playing there this year. FBI Director Kash Patel testified in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee on Tuesday. Patel began his testimony by defending his handling of the investigation into conservative activist Charlie Kirk's assassination last week. He's faced criticism for his actions and social media statements made during the manhunt. Patel also answered questions about the Jeffrey Epstein case. There was an unsigned memo from the Justice Department and the FBI, which stated there was no evidence of a so-called client list and that no one else would be charged related to the case.
State and local law enforcement partnership has been a cornerstone since I took over at the FBI, and it was no different here. And our teams in Salt Lake City, our SACs out there across the country, our lab technicians in Quantico who raced to complete the evidence analysis so the public could have the answers they need. These people worked through the night without sleep for days on end. They are to be commended. They are not to be attacked.
Patel is set to appear before the House Judiciary Committee today.
Tomorrow is the start of Louder Than Life. They're transitioning things from last week's Bourbon and Beyond. This is at the festival grounds this year, so there's more space for the fans, and they also have shade and some upgrades too. Tickets are still available. Now, there's a great lineup for Louder Than Live. Headliners include Slayer, Red Zombie, Marilyn Manson, and they're going to have about 200 other bands hitting the stages. Louder Than Life runs through Sunday. And we had some pretty hot weather for Bourbon and Beyond. How's it looking for Louder Than Life?
It's looking pretty hot, even hotter than what we saw for Bourbon and Beyond in some cases. So we'll keep an eye on that. And of course, I will continue to just jam out that music over the next couple of days. And we're dealing with right now those temperatures in the 50s and the low 60s across our region, 66 at the airport, but it's 60 for those of you in Salem, 59 in E-Town, 61 in Shelbyville, 57 though for those of you in North Vernon. So everybody's pretty comfortable this morning, and the views out there are gorgeous. This is our SkyTrack camera looking from Jeffersonville off towards the east. That sun going to come up over the horizon in just 3 minutes. Yeah, and it's going to be a gorgeous day overall. Now, you saw saw in that image some upper level clouds drifting our way. More of these will move in as the morning goes along, and we'll add in even some additional lower level clouds for later on this afternoon. The reason that we have the upper level clouds coming our way will be because of this area of low pressure off towards our east. We still have this boundary sitting in our region this morning, but there's just not a lot of moisture with it, which is why we're not really concerned about rainfall for today. But we'll get enough of that sunshine despite northerly winds to push your temperatures into the upper 80s and low 90s for this afternoon. We'll also have to watch the way that sunshine and heat actually can affect our air quality. Keep in mind that once our temperatures start to go up, and especially when we don't have a lot of movement in the atmosphere, we get ground level ozone created, and that's not the ozone that's really good for us, and that is why we have the air quality alert in place again for today. Then we head into tonight, falling down to the 50s and the low 60s, keeping our skies clear. Looking ahead to the next 10 days, we do keep the heat around, as I mentioned, for Thursday and Friday to the beginning of Bourbon and beyond, looking pretty good, just a little bit on the toasty side. Adding in a couple of isolated showers and some additional clouds on Saturday, even more clouds and a better chance for some of those scattered showers and thunderstorms on Sunday, and we'll keep some rain chances around for most of next week.
All right, thank you, Tawana. Still ahead, Nintendo has announced several new games to play. We'll tell you about those games when we come back. All right, gamers, listen up. Nintendo has announced several brand new playable games. Here is a Poke-themed life sim that's coming to the Switch 2 console. Players can take on the role of a Ditto, which can transform your sim into a human look-alike. However, you'll have to wait until 2026 to play that one. 2 games that you can play now would be Little Problems, a cozy detective game where there's really no crime to solve, but plenty of investigative pieces as players help a university student navigate life problems that just sounds like normal life. I don't know if I would want to go back to that. And NeoCab, that's a cyberpunk-themed narrative adventure previously playable on all iOS devices. Interesting.
Did you play video games growing up?
I didn't. Did you?
No? Oh, well, I had Atari. You probably don't even know.
I do know Atari. Okay.
And I used to get a bruise on my thumb from aggressively playing that.
We had computer games, and it was just a lot of clicking. Yeah, those were a lot of fun, like Pajama Sam and Putt-Putt, the little, what is it, purple car? Yeah.
Oh.
I loved them, but computer games for me.
We'll be right back.
This Wave News Update is sponsored by Oxmoor Auto Group.
Good morning. I'm Shannon Kogan. Happening today, two of the men convicted in the Crystal Rogers case will learn how long they'll spend in prison. Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson were both found guilty in the 2015 disappearance and presumed death of Rogers. Houck has also agreed to surrender custody of the child he shared with Crystal Rogers to his sister. According to court documents filed Monday, Houck's sister, Rhonda McEvoy, was granted full custody of Houck's 12-year-old son. Joseph Lawson and Brooks Houck are expected to be sentenced this afternoon at 2:30 in Nelson County. We'll have a crew there. We'll bring you the latest. Let's go to meteorologist Tawana Andrew, and we're waking up to a really pretty sunrise.
Yeah, we're seeing some beautiful sunrises out there with upper level clouds moving in, plus still the relatively low humidity that we have in place. That is making for a gorgeous start to the day. Temperatures not too shabby either. A lot of those upper 50s and low 60s this morning. So you may need the light jacket if you're a little bit more sensitive like me. Seeing the gorgeous sunrise showing up right now on our SkyTrack camera in Jeffersonville. A beautiful morning with those upper level clouds that I mentioned. We'll add in a few extra clouds later on this afternoon, but still plenty of sunshine across the region as highs return to near 90 degrees. And for those of you planning ahead to the rest of the week, just keep in mind more of that heat will be on the way. But if you have any sort of breathing ailment, don't forget that we do have an air quality alert still in place. Rob.
Tawana, thanks so much. Still keeping our eyes on a traffic tie-up we're talking at 265 West at 65. This all starting about 45 minutes ago. Reports of a two-car crash in that area that is blocking the right shoulder as cleanup crews get out there and kind of assess the situation and get things taken care of. But again, this is 265 West at 65, a two-car crash. Give yourself a lot of extra time if you're heading through that area. We'll see you back here in about 25 minutes.